Across the international wizarding community, there are 11 officially recognized schools of magic, and while Hogwarts enjoys a prestigious reputation, it may not actually be the best fit for everyone. Durmstrang, which you have probably heard of before, think Goblet of Fire, bears the darkest reputation of all wizarding schools, and is perhaps best known for the dark wizard Gellert Grindelwald once roaming its corridors. The school, which is located in the northernmost regions of Norway, was originally founded during the Middle Ages by a Bulgarian witch named Nerida Volkanova. She successfully operated the school until her mysterious death, after which Harfang Munter, a wizard known for his dubious allegiance and nefarious intent, took over as headmaster. Under Munter's leadership, Durmstrang developed a reputation for its emphasis on martial magic, particularly dueling, which became a defining aspect of the school's curriculum. And while it operated as an institution of study like all of the other schools, there was a darker undertone to it all. And this only got worse over time, with Dark Wizard and former Death Eater Igor Karkaroff later becoming headmaster of the school. After taking over, he quickly promoted a culture of fear and intimidation, further contributing to the school's dark reputation. But like I mentioned earlier, Durmstrang's true claim to fame, or rather notorious hallmark, was one of its former pupils, Gellert Grindelwald. Grindelwald permanently stained the school's reputation by pushing the boundaries of dark magic even further than the school permitted, eventually being expelled for twisted, dark experiments and near-fatal attacks on students. But what exactly did Gellert Grindelwald do? Durmstrang was notorious for allowing its students to explore the darker side of magic. How far did he really push that boundary? As these attacks and experiments were never explored in detail, today I'm going to be taking a look at a few theories. Let's dive in. Hey everyone, welcome to another installment of Harry Potter Theory. Gellert Grindelwald was born in the year 1883, and when he became of age, he started attending Durmstrang. Almost immediately, he began to absorb the school's strength-obsessed, dark magic-oriented culture, and while still very young, he demonstrated exceptional magical ability, the likes of which the school had never seen before. However, by the time he was 16, he had taken his dark pursuits too far. Educated at Durmstrang, a school famous even then for its unfortunate tolerance of the dark arts, Grindelwald showed himself quite as precociously brilliant as Dumbledore. Rather than channel his abilities into the attainment of awards and prizes, however, Gellert Grindelwald devoted himself to other pursuits. When Grindelwald was 16 years old, even Durmstrang felt it could no longer turn a blind eye to his twisted experiments, and he was expelled. And one of the most significant developments in Grindelwald's obsession with power came after he had a vision of himself rising to dominance over the wizarding world. Following this, he learned and quickly became obsessed with the three fabled Deathly Hallows, seeing them and the title of Master of Death as an opportunity to fulfill his destiny. Grindelwald had this epiphany while still studying at Durmstrang, and this obsession fueled his actions in the years to come. In fact, after being expelled, Grindelwald appropriated the symbol for the Deathly Hallows and integrated it into his own personal emblem, alongside the slogan, "For the greater good." But why is all of this important? Well, I think that it likely had a pretty big role in the types of experiments that he was performing. Without sufficient information, it wouldn't make sense for me to narrow it down to just one type of twisted experiment. So I'll give you some options, and you can let me know down below which theory you subscribe to. 1. The Unforgivable Hallows. After leaving Durmstrang, Grindelwald headed to Godric's Hollow, where he met Albus Dumbledore. The two quickly hit it off, with each as ambitious as the other, and they also bonded over a common goal: to seek out and acquire all three of the Deathly Hallows. Both boys felt that wizardkind, who they felt was superior to muggles, should no longer hide in the shadows, and should stake their claim to the world. In a letter from Dumbledore to Grindelwald, we learn a little bit more about this. Gellert, your point about wizard dominance being for the muggles' own good. This, I think, is the crucial point. Yes, we've been given power, and yes, that power gives us the right to rule, but it also gives us responsibilities over the ruled. We must stress this point. It will be the foundation stone upon which we build. Where we are opposed, as we surely will be, This must be the basis of all our counter-arguments. We seize control for the greater good, and from this it follows that where we meet resistance, we must use only the force that is necessary and no more. This was your mistake at Durmstrang, but I do not complain, because if you had not been expelled, we would never have met. Albus. The above passage discusses their general goal of establishing wizarding dominance, but interestingly, it also references Grindelwald's behaviour at Durmstrang. What Dumbledore reinforces in this letter is that Grindelwald, while studying there, resorted to using more force than necessary to propagate his missions and ideals. This probably means that Grindelwald's twisted experiments had a goal, and that they weren't just twisted for the sake of satisfying his sadistic nature. After all, he commonly refers to other wizards as his brothers, the real enemy to him being muggles. Therefore, I suspect that these twisted experiments involved a variety of coercion tactics to get other wizards on his side. To achieve this, perhaps Grindelwald enlisted the help of the unforgivable curses. We know that by the time Grindelwald leaves Godric's Hollow, he's well versed in the use of unforgivable curses, or at least one of them. This is proven during the three-way duel with Aberforth and Dumbledore, where he cast the Cruciatus Curse. Therefore, it's reasonable to assume that he had already mastered these dark spells during his time at Durmstrang. Bearing that in mind, I suspect that Grindelwald used this very same curse whenever he met resistance, as Dumbledore alluded to in his letter. The use of the Cruciatus Curse to instill fear, break the will of dissenters, or force others to align with his ideology would align with his belief in the greater good, and by coercing other students through these methods, Grindelwald may have been trying to amass followers or test the boundaries of loyalty even at a young age. Torturing people would be consistent with the reasons cited for his expulsion, as the Cruciatus Curse fits the bill for something dark, twisted, and nearly lethal. Along with Crucio, I suspect it's possible that Grindelwald would have dabbled in legilimency, using his natural talent for manipulation to delve into the minds of other students, uncover their vulnerabilities and exploit their fears. This would allow him to enforce compliance while also creating division within the school by targeting those who opposed his ideas. Another thing worth mentioning is memory charms. In Secrets of Dumbledore, we see Grindelwald alter the memory of use of karma, allowing him to forget the memory of his sister's death so that he would no longer feel the pain associated with it. Clearly, he's a master of memory manipulation, so I imagine this may have also been part of his twisted experiments. He would be employing both mental and physical warfare on the student body, punishing any and all who challenged him. Sounds like grounds for expulsion. Number 2. Necromancy. My next theory regarding Grindelwald's twisted experiments delves into even darker territory, but also aligns more closely with what could truly be described as twisted. While many believe that Voldemort pushed the limits of dark magic more than anyone else, I'd personally give Grindelwald that title. And among the darkest arts he is suspected of mastering, one that stands out to me is his obsession with necromancy. Sure, Voldemort made a bunch of Inferi and put them in a cave, but I think that Grindelwald's knowledge of necromancy was much more all-encompassing. One of the best examples of Grindelwald's connection to necromancy comes from Secrets of Dumbledore, where in a pretty gruesome display, he slashes the throat of a Chillin, a sacred and pure creature, only to reanimate its corpse moments later. But the most sinister part is that the reanimated Chillin was basically physically indistinguishable from the Chillin he had killed moments earlier, albeit a little rougher around the edges, but had its will bent towards Grindelwald. For the upcoming election, he needed a Chillin that was guaranteed to pick him, and he had brought this creature back to life for this sole purpose. I don't know what the reanimated Chillin was, but it wasn't an Inferi. By contrast, Inferi are basically zombies. They're mindless puppets that blindly followed the orders of their master, and they also happen to look like zombies. Whatever Grindelwald produced seems to be a lot more advanced. Therefore, I think that Grindelwald was possibly experimenting with killing people, or perhaps magical creatures since he wasn't put in jail, and reanimating them in a way that they subscribed to his beliefs and/or followed him. Grindelwald's interest in necromancy is also highlighted by his ambitions for what he had hoped to achieve with the Resurrection Stone. Dumbledore wanted the stone to bring his loved ones back to life, and Grindelwald saw it as a tool to amass an army of undead warriors. While still just a student, Grindelwald chose to harness one of the most forbidden and feared forms of magic, and this certainly aligns with him being expelled from a school that was otherwise quite tolerant of dark magic. 3. Horcruxes. Voldemort is commonly referred to as one of the earliest practitioners of Horcrux creation. Before him, there was supposedly just one other wizard, Herpo the Foul, who was able to successfully create just one. But that doesn't mean that others didn't dabble. J.K. Rowling even confirmed this in an interview. Wizards would have been looking for ways to do exactly what Voldemort did for years, so I imagine they're huge parallels. Splitting the atom would be a very good parallel in our world. I do imagine that other people are going to have tried. I think it would be naive not to think that people have been trying for a long time. Therefore, it's reasonable to assume that the other major dark wizard on our radar, Grindelwald, also attempted this at some point, maybe while he was a student. The nature of his experiments, which were described as twisted and leading to near-fatal outcomes for other students, could support this theory. If Grindelwald was truly attempting to explore the process of splitting a soul, he may have been experimenting and using fellow students as unwilling subjects. Perhaps he sought to understand whether a soul could be fragmented without committing murder himself, or whether a fragment could be forcibly extracted from another person. Or maybe, like I mentioned earlier, he was using magical creatures as test subjects. This would be similarly terrifying and twisted, but without the whole murdering another student thing. Horcruxes are taboo even in the wizarding world, so if Grindelwald was indeed experimenting with Horcrux-like magic, it could explain both the severity of his punishment and the fear he instilled in those around him. Anyway, that's it for now. I'd love to hear your theories on this topic. What do you think Grindelwald did to get expelled from Durmstrang? Let me know down in the comment section below. Until next time, remember, it does not do to dwell on dreams and forget to live.